If you've been wanting to start budgeting but feel overwhelmed, then this video is for you. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rachel. Thank you for joining me for another video. Today we're going to be going over how to successfully create a budget. A budget is just simply a plan for your money. It'll help you be more aware of, your actual status of your finances and help you to spend intentionally. So the first thing you want to know when creating a budget is what your income for the month is going to be. So this includes things like full-time job, if you're married or you share finances with somebody, all of that income you're going to want to write down. So for example, we'll just pick let's say 3,500. Oops. Let's just say full-time job, 3,500 per month. And that's you want to make sure that you're calculating what you bring home. Not like if you're salaried and you make, I don't know, $75,000 a year, obviously after taxes, your checks are going to look a little bit different. So you want to actually calculate what you're going to be bringing home each month. And so that is the first step. And then the next thing you want to do, and this is what I did, I just did this when I started a zero-based budget, and these are real numbers. So I went through my bank statements for October, November, and December of last year, and I went through my major spending categories. I went through how much my fixed bills are, what I was spending on groceries, random spending, how much I was spending on gas, my subscriptions, and how much I was spending going out to eat. And I'm actually I'm so happy I did this because the bills part, you can't really do a whole lot with fixed bills. So like if your internet is $100 a month and your cell phone is $90 a month, there's really not a whole lot you can do about those, but those are going to be your fixed expenses. But I live alone and I just buy groceries for me. And if you look at these numbers, this is outrageous. I was $885 for October, $836 for November, and then in December is when I decided that January is going to start like taking budgeting seriously. And so it dropped down to 554. And as for spending, the $885 for one person, that is, I don't I don't know. I was buying all sorts of stuff. And then for spending, in October was 467, November 455, and then December did go up because it was Christmas time and I was buying gifts. However, with Amazon Prime and everything being at our fingertips, it made it really easy to just like add to your cart and have that item or whatever it was be on your doorstep in a couple hours. So these two categories, the spending and the groceries, were ones that I really like had to take a hard look at and ask myself, like, why am I spending so much money on this stuff? And then for gas, 48 in October, $33 in November, 30 in December. That's kind of like a non-negotiable. If you work outside the home, like you need gas. If you have family obligations, you have kids, you have to, take them to activities. This is another one that you can't really do a whole lot with. And then the next one is subscriptions, and fairly consistent through the 3 months, $98, 107, and 98. I did actually cut down a lot on my subscriptions. I forget which ones I had that I wasn't really using, and like Spotify was one. I kind of like had the subscription but wasn't really using it, so that's one that I cut out. I'm trying to think. I had a couple others that I just felt like could be put on hold, and so I was able to cut that number down. And then dining out, it was my least of my worries. I spent 26 in October, 0 in November, and 0 December. I really try to cook a lot of my meals at home. Well, all of my meals at home. I rarely go out to eat unless it's like a special occasion or like a work event or something like that. And so, what you want to do is go through your bank statements, and I just highlighted. I put each category as a different color, and I highlighted and then added up all the totals to see what I was spending. And this grocery one was a huge wake up call. I would see something like on YouTube or Instagram that I wanted to make, and I'd go out and get the stuff, and that adds up really quick. So once you have a rough idea of what you're spending in each category, then you can kind of see do I need to be spending all of this, or can I, cut down on a lot of this? Because my total for October was $4,012, $3,882 in November, and then it went down to $3,005 in December. So I do really suggest that you do take a look at your bank statements. I know it can be, one of those things, out of sight, out of mind, but it will really help when setting up your budget. So after you take a look at your bank statement and kind of get a rough estimate of what you're spending, you're going to want to go through and figure out what your fixed expenses are. And these are the non-negotiables. These are things that you have to basically pay to, keep a roof over your head. Or, for example, I have a cell phone. And these are a lot of common payments, like student loans is one that is a non-negotiable because I don't want people coming after me for not paying those back. And so you're going to want to go through and calculate your fixed expenses for the month. So let's see, my dental insurance is $48 a month, and I'm just going to keep a running tab over here. My cell phone is $46. My Amazon Prime, I think this is $16. My internet is $90. Apple is, let me think, I think this is $30. This is my YouTube Premium and my iCloud storage. I think it's $30. My car insurance is $132. My rent is $13.25. My student loans are $290. My subscriptions, I think, so this is X. I have an X, a Chat GPT. I think that's it. I think this is, I have like the lowest tier ones that you can get. So I think this is like $14. And then my Canva is $16. So that comes out to $2,007 for my fixed expenses. 2007. Okay. And then after you calculate the total for your non-negotiables, your non-negotiable bills and things like that, you're going to want to come up with your variable expenses list. And this includes things like gas, your groceries, any spending money you want throughout the week or the month, and then dining out. And I also put sinking funds into my variable expenses. It could go under savings because sinking funds are basically like little savings for certain categories. But it does vary from, check to check how much I want to put into my sinking funds. And then I also have APS under variable, and APS is my electric company. And so I'm just going to use the most recent number that I had for my electric bill. And so my electric bill for last month was $81. Gas, per month, I budget $40 per paycheck. I'm paid semi-monthly, so twice a month. And so I budget $40 per paycheck, so that's $80. Groceries, like I said, it's just me, so I budget $300 a month total. Whoops. Okay, spending and dining out are the two categories. I don't really spend a whole lot outside of my sinking fund categories. And so for spending for the month, I give myself 50, and then dining out for the month, like I said, I eat at home a lot. So I only do 50 a month for that. So that's another 100. And so for those expenses, that's 561. Oops. I'm making such a mess of this. Okay. And then, of course, an emergency fund or even a starter emergency fund, I highly recommend at least, I don't know, $1,000 $2,000 for anything that might come up, like if you have a problem with your car. You just want to have a little kind of cushion in case something happens. So, after you figure out if you've got leftover money after you've come up with your total fixed expenses and these variables for the month, you can determine how much you want to put into your emergency fund each month. And then also, if you have a Roth IRA for retirement, if your employer has an employee match, I would highly suggest taking advantage of that and trying to max that out if you can. I currently don't have a Roth IRA through my employer, so the employee match doesn't really help me or do anything for me. And then, of course, if you have debt, if you have balances on credit cards, I guess I could have put my student loans under debt too. I just treat this like a bill. Like I don't know. I think I have 65 grand in debt between my bachelor's and my master's degree, and so I just count that as a regular bill or fixed expense. But if you have a balance on credit cards or personal loans, you can absolutely calculate the total that you have for that. And so what you'll do then is take your total income for the month. So we said 3,500. And then you'll subtract your fixed expenses. And then if you have savings that you want to put aside or debt, like I said, you can subtract that from your income. And then also for your variable expenses, you'll want to subtract that. And so for bills, we'll put 2007. Savings, I'm not going to put anything in here for now, but if you do put or set aside money for savings, make sure to calculate that in here. So we'll do 0 for that, 0 for that. And variable expenses is 561. So that leaves us with $932 for the month. And so after that, then once you figure out how much you have left after everything, all your bills, all your variable expenses are taken care of, then you can determine how much you want to put in your sinking funds. If you wanted to take half of that 932 and put it into your sinking funds, or if you wanted to throw extra into emergency, this isn't set in stone. This is just a basic guideline for you to test out. And then if it doesn't work, you can make adjustments as needed. So once you have your budget set out like this, I have this sheet, and like I said, I'm paid semi-monthly, so I get 2 paychecks per month on the 5th and the 20th. And so what I do here is I break down which bills are coming out of what paycheck. That way, for me personally, the first half of the month is lighter on bills. And so let's see, my dental is due on the 5th, my electric's due on the 5th, my cell phone is due on the 6th, Prime's on the 7th, Cox is on, my internet is on the 10th, my Apple subscriptions come out on the 12th, and my insurance on the 13th. And so then the expected amount, this you don't really need to worry about because these are fixed, so it'll actually be or if you want to round up, like if, for example, my dental insurance is actually $47 and some change, but I rounded up to the next dollar. So that's 48. We'll do the 81. My cell phone's 46. My Prime is 16. My internet is, what did I say, 90. Apple, I forget already. I think I said 30. And then my insurance is 132. So then we'll just add these up for this first paycheck. 90, 30. So it's 443. And so since I am paid, if you're paid semi-monthly or twice a month, you would just take the example 3,500 we used for your monthly income divided by 2. So out of this, your first paycheck would be 1,750, and then if you subtract the expenses that come out, you're left with 1,307, and then you can split this up to go into your sinking funds and your savings and everything like that. And so this is how I just kind of keep track of which bills come out of what paycheck. So then for my second paycheck, my rent is due on the 20th. My student loans are on the 21st. I think my subscriptions are on the 25th. The other subscriptions I have, and then my Canva is on the 27th. So then these again for me are fixed expenses. So my rent is $1,325. My student loans are $290. Subscriptions are $13, and my Canva is $16. So $1,325 plus $290 plus $13 plus $16. So that's $1,644. So if you have like I said, for me personally, these are like the real numbers of what my bills are. So this is a lighter bill cycle for my first paycheck. And then obviously because my rent is 1,325, I have a heavier amount of bills as far as the amount of money on the second paycheck. And then this is optional if you're really wanting to track your expenses. But basically, for the week, I would put the dates between my first paycheck of the month and second paycheck of the month. And then this is where you could track things like gas, groceries, spending, and dining out. And so if you're splitting up the total amount that you'd set for the month for these categories, so like I mentioned, I do $80 a month for gas. So the budget for this pay period would be $40. Groceries, I do $300 for the month. So for this paycheck, this would be $150. And then for spending and dining out, they would each get $25 for a total of $50 each per category per month. And so at the end of the pay period, you can go through and calculate how much you spent and what you have left. And then when you go to set up your next week, you can add what you have remaining. If you had any leftover, you could add that into what your budget is, or if you want to take that remaining amount that you had left over, you could roll into things like savings challenges, or throw into your emergency fund, or any other sinking fund that you're trying to bulk up or is a priority for you. Or you could throw it towards extra debt if you wanted to. Like I mentioned, you don't need anything fancy, to set up a budget or do any of this. You just need to make sure that you really take a look at your bank statements, because that can help you kind of narrow down where you could cut some extra spending. And then you also need to just know your total income for the month. Like I said, if you are living with someone or you share finances with someone, or if it's just you, or if you have any side hustles, you can make sure you include that in your monthly income. And then, just make sure you tweak this as you go. Because like I said, this is not anything that is set in stone. I've made a few adjustments to my monthly budget when it comes to things like groceries. I've added in additional categories for beverages, that like things like coffee and sparkling water, that cut into my grocery expenses. And so it's just about trial and error and being consistent. So that is all for this video. If you guys enjoyed this, please consider subscribing so you don't miss any future content. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.